The moon landing of U.S. astronauts. Secret documents reveal the real reason President John F. Kennedy launched the Apollo 11 moon mission. The moon landing was only possible thanks to heavy backing from then U.S. President John F. Kennedy, but secret documents reveal the real reason the president wanted Apollo 11 to succeed. Today marks 53 years since Apollo 11 landed on the moon. It enabled Neil Armstrong to become the first person to walk on the lunar surface, uttering the now immortal phrase, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." And the mission was complete 8 years after President Kennedy announced a national goal of landing a man on the moon by the end of the 1960s. In 1961, President Kennedy made a plea to a special joint session of Congress. He said, "I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth." At that time, the Soviet Union was leading the space race. It had already made cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin the first human being to travel into space. In January 2021, author and curator of the Smithsonian's Apollo collection, Tesla Muri Harmony, uncovered documents that shed light on the true motivation behind President Kennedy's ambitions in space. And having looked at the files from the United States Information Agency, USIA, she concluded that President Kennedy, quote, did not propose it for the sake of science, end quote, but rather as a demonstration of what the American industry was capable of and a demonstration of American values. Dr. Muir Harmony laid out what the document said in her book, Operation Moonglow, A Political History of Project Apollo. She outlined that the U.S. was motivated more by political goals than they were by scientific breakthroughs. She said Mr. Kennedy did not propose it for the sake of science. She adds the Soviet Union was relatively closed about what they were launching when they were launching it and their technology. The U.S. took a different tack, inviting the press to cover launches and sending spacecraft around the world. Her book highlights that President Dwight D. Eisenhower's administration was the first to put forward the idea of a moon landing to contain communism, align the world with the U.S., and shore up America's power. USIA Acting Director Donald Wilson comments on the book and indicated this. He said President Kennedy was a man who, perhaps better than any other president in our history, understood how foreign opinion worked and what molded it, what shaped it, and how to shape it. And while President Kennedy's assassination in '63 meant he never got to see the fruits of his labor, President Richard Nixon later capitalized on the moon landing. Dr. Muir Harmony told of how President Nixon held a diplomatic tour explicitly to take advantage of the international popularity of the moon landing. Moon landing fever remained over 50 years after Neil Armstrong took those famous steps on the lunar surface. Buzz Aldrin, his partner on the Apollo 11 mission, is auctioning off a trove of personal items and historical artifacts from his career, including the jacket he wore during the moon landing. And the jacket is expected to attract bids of up to $2 million, according to the sale organizer Sotheby's. And in the press release, Mr. Aldrin said that the collection, which dates back to his time as a student at the U.S. Military Academy, represents the summation, he says, of my career as an astronaut. And he adds, after deep consideration, the time felt right to share these items with the world, which for many are symbols of a historic moment, but for me have always remained personal mementos of a life dedicated to science and exploration. Buzz Aldrin says, I hope that this collection offers some insight into what it has been like to be Buzz Aldrin. And this is on Express UK by Charlie Bradley. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.